Hello everybody, Cosplay Freddy here, aka Freddie Lee Jones III, and I would like to welcome you all to my new movie review channel called Movies on the Run. The reason why it's called Movies on the Run is we're going to take a more running theme aspect of our rating system. That being said, instead of grading movies on a scale of 1 to 5, we're going to grade them like this. Our 1 will be a 5K. 2 will be a 10K. 3 will be a half marathon. 4 will be a full marathon. And 5 will be an ultra marathon. Now that we got that out of the way, let's review today's movie. Today's movie will be the Stephen King adaptation for 2017, It. The movie stars Bill Skarsgård, Jaden Lieberhard, Jeremy Ray Taylor, Sophia Lillis, Finn Wolfhard, Chosen Jacobs, Jack Dylan Grazer, Wyatt Olaf, and Nicholas Hamilton. The movie was directed by Andy Muschietti. Now, let's get on with our review. First off, I want to say that I was extremely proud of how great this movie was. Reason why I say that is because I'm one of the many that watched the NBC two-part miniseries that debuted back in the 1990s. Now granted, I had never heard of this movie, but I have heard of Stephen King. I've heard of Stephen King through many of his works, such as Christine, Misery, his work on Creepshow with George A. Romero. I'm sorry, the late George A. Romero, bless his soul and bless his history of making movies. So I was quite affiliated with a lot of his craziness, and like the Tommyknockers and Los Langoliers, which I think came a little bit later. So the fact that you had Tim Curry, who played Darkness in the movie Legend, which is one of my favorite Tom Cruise movies. I mean, hands down. I would honestly put Legend over the first 3 Mission Impossibles. Actually, the first 2 Mission Impossible, because Mission Impossible 3 was actually really good. But Legend always stuck out for me, not because of Tom Cruise and not because of the rest of the cast, but it was always Tim Curry. The fact that when he made when Darkness showed up on scene, it was just amazing, like the way he talked, his regalness, his nobility. I mean, granted, he's the villain of the movie, but he brought this essence of nobility with the character, where he just wasn't, oh, I'm going to kill this unicorn, and oh, I'm going to turn the world into complete darkness. No, like when Tim Curry steps into a role, and matter of fact, I want to even say Peter Pan and the Pirates, or Peter and the Pirates. It was an old Fox 90s show, cartoon, and it was about Peter Pan, but it was kind of told from the perspective, not the Disney version, but it was kind of told from the perspectives of both Hook and Pan. And I just remember whenever I would hear his voice, because Tim Curry has a unique voice that you can never mistake. And the way he used to talk to Peter, you thought that they were about to come to blows like every single episode, which was cool. But, on that same aspect, that's what makes Tim Curry a force to be reckoned with. Now, fast forward 27 years later. Now, I am not affiliated with a lot of stuff that Bill Skarsgård has done, but I know he comes from a pretty good acting family, and I think his dad, if I'm not mistaken, was in the first and second Thor movie, if I can remember correctly. But he's a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With that being said, I want to say this man has some incredible big shoes to fill. Not only did he fill those shoes, but he even took it a step further. He was creepy in every sense of the word, for those of you all who hate clowns. I myself don't have an issue with clowns, but I would have an issue with Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise because of the fact of he just flips the script, so quickly. So at one point he's laughing and joking, and then he goes from laughing and joking to menacing, and then goes back to laughing and joking. Then he goes to, a dramatic phase. Then he comes back down to psychotic. Then he goes up to showing, fake sympathy for characters, and then he goes back to menacing. I mean, the guy must have went through the school of Heath Ledger method acting to get into this, because I didn't see Bill Skarsgård, just like with Tim Curry. You don't see Tim Curry as Pennywise. You see Pennywise. When you see Bill Skarsgård on the screen, like, if you never seen what this guy looks like and you seen Pennywise, you'd be like, holy hell, like, this is ridiculously scary. Things that I loved about the movie, besides it being scary. Now, I won't lie to you. I had like 6 jump scares that got me in the movie. And it wasn't along the lines of, like, it was just like that, the silly jump scares where, something happens and like a cat jumps out or a character shows up. Majority of the time, it was either Pennywise or whatever you were afraid of, your fear, was what made those jump scares unique. They weren't wasted jump scares. Now, due to the fact that the movie is about the dancing clown and also about the fears, the way that I saw this movie from a film student's perspective was that the fears were in thirds. Like, I'm glad it wasn't all about Pennywise, and I'm glad it wasn't all about the fears, but there's another part of that. So you have not only Pennywise the dancing clown, you also had what scared the kids, the Losers Club. You also had things that happened in Derry, like the Henry Bowers gang. So you had those 3 things that was happening all the time. So it really never let up. So you were constantly, for the 2 hours and 15 minutes that this movie was on, you were in a constant state of panic. Where was it going to come from? Which direction? Was it going to come from the Bowers gang? Was it going to come from, an individual fear? Or was it going to come from Pennywise? Now, the one thing that I loved that they did in this movie that I kind of wish, now seeing this, they would have done in the 1990 version was, I loved how in this movie you saw what scared the kids first, and then you saw Pennywise. Whereas in the 1990s, you saw Pennywise first, and then you would see what scared the kids. And sometimes they would kind of do it, but it wasn't as much as it should have been done. And I'm kind of glad that a lot of the stuff that they put in, that they didn't put in from the book, didn't make it into the screen. Because I started doing some research, and I come to find out this book is really sick and twisted. There's a lot of things that go on in this book that, okay, as a moviegoer, I would have appreciated them putting into it. Now, they do put a couple of subtle notes into it, but as a filmmaker and a film watcher and a film student, I wish they would have put it in there. But I know with today's audience, there are certain things that you can't put into it, and I understand. Let's talk about, besides Bill Skarsgård, what is that boy's name who played Richie? Finn Wolfhard. Now, I won't lie to you. I'm one of the very few who have not seen Stranger Things. I think I might have seen part of episode 1 or part of episode 2, and it just didn't tickle my fancy. But I will give it another shot. But I think part of it was because everyone kept talking about it. And I'm one of those, if everybody's talking about it, I don't need to watch it just yet. But the chemistry between Finn and Jack was uncanny. Like, that was like how my friends and I interacted back when we were younger. And some of my friends still interact till this day. And next week, I'm 39. And we still kind of, have like that little childish angst of, constantly throwing zingers at each other, But, I mean, that was just like, he was just uncanny. Now, I've had heard that people was like, oh, my God, he talks too much. Can Pennywise please get him? I thought he was one of the better aspects of the film, because just when you needed a moment to kind of like that was too intense to kind of bring it down just a notch, Richie was there. When you needed comic relief, when a scene seemed like it was about to start getting stale, boom, here comes Richie, here comes Finn with comic relief. So he did an extremely great job, and the fact that he wasn't overly used, because there's scenes where he does get serious, and there's not like, oh well, that's just a funny kid trying to get serious. No, it was like once he got serious, and I love that about him, and the fact that all of these kids were a part of a 7-piece pie, because there's 7 members of the Losers. So each individual piece of pie needed the other to make a scene work. And that's what made them come together and gel together. And was icing on the cake, no pun intended, is what makes this movie work. Even with like some of the sub characters like Mike. Yeah, Mike did a few things in the towards the latter part of the movie, and then with Ben, he came in towards the mid part. But it was initially about, and Bev, even with Beverly, like she came in initially with, but like towards the middle, towards the mid part of the movie, and everyone just meshed well. Granted, it's more about Bill, Richie, and Eddie. Like those were the 3 core. And then the other 4 members, and Stan, we can't forget Stan. But Stan is one of those characters where, he's in it, and he's not in it as much. He's on the screen, but he doesn't need to say things or do things, but, just the fact that he's there. And that's how it kind of is. We all have our little cliques and groups where you have that one character who is kind of like the voice of reason, but they don't need to constantly keep telling you they're the voice of reason. So that's what I did enjoy about that. As far as bad, honestly, I can't even think of like really anything bad about it. Now, I will say this: this movie probably had some of the most realistic lines that. Kind of goes to, obviously it goes to a good, but it has some of the most realistic lines and some of the most realistic tropes that you would believe. And this is one thing that I did love about it. There's a scene where Eddie is being chased by his fear. I won't say it because we're not going to spoil anything. But when he falls, obviously everybody has to fall in a horror movie. But the fact that he didn't dwell on himself falling, his ass fell and got up. Granted, he was still kind of fighting to get up, but every time a child was in a particular situation, it wasn't like, oh, you got me, now I have to give up, now I have to do something stupid in order for you to get me. No, even when one of the bullies gets taken, like he still kind of goes out fighting to a degree. Granted, yeah, he's scared out of his wits, but it was stuff like that I loved about it. So that's why I can't really say anything bad about the movie. Personally, and you know what? This is one bad thing, and I will say this is very, very nitpicky of what I'm about to say. I personally wish that the movie was 3 hours. I really wish it was 3 hours long. Because when it was over, I was like, damn, like this is it. Like, I want some more. Like, I want more. That's how good it was. And like I said, it's extremely nitpicky. And I personally wish that the movie was 3 hours, like on the head, 3 hours long. Nothing felt rushed for me to warrant that. But it was just like the movie and the story was so engaging that I did not want it to stop. There's been some movies that I've seen where I was like, damn, okay, yeah, they could have shaved off a couple of minutes of that. They could have added a couple of here. But for me to actually say a good extra 45 minutes to make this movie even more enjoyable for me, I know it's a huge stretch. And some people may agree, some people may disagree. Feel free to let me know in the comments below. But I will say this. Overall rating, it satisfied everything that I wanted. I wanted to be scared. I wanted to have an engaging story. I wanted to say, you know what? Like, I'm actually glad this was made the way it was made. And lastly, this is the reason why I am in film school, to make movies like this. Great storytelling, great characters. Like, no one character was, bad. Like, everyone who was in the movie did exactly what they were supposed to do. Now, as far as my rating system, what would I say? Minus the nitpickiness of it being 3 hours, which I wish it would have been, I'm actually going to give this one first rating of the running theme rating system. I'm going to give it a full marathon, which is our equivalent of a 4. Because of the fact that, yes, it wasn't longer than what I really wanted. And that was like the only thing. So we'll say, I had a full marathon, and we'll keep it at that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching my first review of 2017 of Movies on the Run. And be sure to like and subscribe. And we are actually going to be starting a Patreon page really soon. So I would love for you all to support our channel. And this is Cosplay Freddy, and I am out.